Hello, everybody. Welcome to Football Tonight, brought to you by TopFCRadio.com. We have another episode. We missed out on the last one because Laurent, he just couldn't do it. It's okay. It's his fault. We're gonna blame it on him. But we got a new guest. We got a new
lice and COVID.
But I was trying to keep that. I was trying to keep that a secret.
I don't care. I'm going to put my daughter on blast. She's disgusting.
Oh my God! But now we have a huge guest. We have Spurs #1 pundit, and that is Mike Salerno. Finally joined us after begging him for months and years, to join us. He's going to do us a favor and be on the show today. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, why is Mike is my partner of at least 250
yes,
episodes
on the Squeaky Mountain Time
podcast,
exactly,
which has slowed down the last 2 weeks because I took weird mushrooms and couldn't do the Sunday night show.
How's it going, Mike?
Chris, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going good, man. It's going good. Laurent's a wacky son of a bitch. It's good to be back. Beside him, yelling about God knows what. And yeah, I mean, it's and it's a terrific time to be a Tottenham Hotspur supporter for the first time in probably 4 years. So
it is. You guys got Big Ange Postecoglou, man. He's just terrific. It's terrific. Laurent, I don't know who he follows. I mean, he follows Brighton City. He likes Postecoglou. He hates United. That's a fact, and Liverpool. But
Liverpool, I really hate Liverpool.
But anyways, let's start today's show talking. We have to follow the rules, right? We have to talk about United. We have to wake up thinking about United, whether it's for good or bad, and it is bad right now because
it is bad.
Brighton beating them like a stepchild.
Can we go back? Do we have the clip from the first episode of the season when you laughed at me because I predicted that Brighton would be in the top 4?
Well, that's going to be a big ask for Brighton. I mean, I think you should know that. I was reading today that people are actually talking about them potentially winning the Premier League. We have to take it one step at a time. I don't know what Mike thinks a little bit on Brighton. That would be good to hear, but because
we're going back to the Graham Potter days with Laurent's love for Brighton, right? And the weird thing is that, it was towards the end of our time together when he was Graham Potter had left and Roberto De Zerbi comes in and we're like, all right, this guy's okay. But he went one level higher. I think Laurent has been bragging about the fact that he told Jimmy Conrad that Brighton would be in the top 10 2 seasons ago, and he's pretty much just riding that hot streak. Yeah. But yeah, there's money to be made on Brighton, and I'm enjoying some of it. Yeah. It's been an interesting ride. I'm watching Ansu Fati line up for them is very strange. Like, from where? Who? What?
Right. It almost feels like it don't make sense. It almost feels like it doesn't make sense.
Right, and that's the beauty of it, right? So, I mean, I'm excited to see how he kicks on and gets more ingrained in that group. I like that he came in at the beginning of an international break, so he was able to kind of bed in a little bit. But yeah, the sky really is the limit for Brighton. Look, if Leicester can do it, then Brighton's a hell of a lot better than that Leicester team. So we'll see.
The floor is the ceiling.
Essentially it would be something similar to Leicester and what they did. In that time, I do agree. I think they have more talent.
To your point,
I think if you look at that Leicester finishing season, top 4,
he cuts you off too.
Oh yeah,
he cuts you off too, Chris.
He cuts everybody off.
To compare them to that Leicester team, real quick though, right? Like looking at the league around Leicester when they did what they did, City was, just unkept. Well, they just weren't quite. They weren't Pep yet. They were Pellegrini still, right?
Pellegrini,
so
yeah.
You had
Second
that element. Arsenal was up and coming, sort of messy, it was Tottenham's to lose, and guess what happened? But every big team was down. Now compare that to today. You've got, we'll talk about United, I suppose, in a second. Chelsea's at 6s and 7s, but everybody else, there's other players in the ball game, right? You've got City still there. Arsenal looks great. Tottenham looks great. Newcastle, troubling right now, but you would think that you would peg them to finish ahead of Brighton before the season. So whereas in 7 years ago, there wasn't all that much. It was almost like the road was paved for Leicester to do that. Brighton's going to have a knife fight every weekend at the top of the table if they're going to do that again.
No, yeah, for sure. Now let's get started with United. Let's dive deep into I just don't even know. We talk about this every week, and I just don't know what. I mean, I give my solution every week, and it almost. Well, actually, they don't listen to me. Maybe it'll work because I think I don't know, Mike, if you've been listening, but I think that United has just a regular manager with a bunch of regular players, and you're going to get regular results, right? However, in their defense, before Laurent goes in, I will say that in this time last year, they were around the same. They lost to Brighton, and they finished top 4. Now, United, you figured they would go for more than just going top 4. But go ahead, Laurent.
So, yes, you're right. They did lose to Brighton around this time. And every game since that loss to Brighton at home, they had been unbeaten until Brighton came back to Old Trafford and beat them again. So United had been undefeated at home this whole time and been playing well. That had been their bread and butter. They were bad against good teams away from home. I talked about that stat, top 9, lost every game, go to Arsenal, lose. So Ten Hag had been putting this team together on a lot of luck, honestly. Like, I know no one wants to talk about stats. No one wants to talk about expected goals. The reason why I kept saying that Ten Hag was a good manager was the underlying numbers for United were bad. This was not a top 4 team. It was actually Brighton that had top 4 numbers, but didn't finish in the top 4. Those spots should have been replaced. So in this game, the first 20 minutes, United were good because they surprised Brighton. They went with a midfield diamond. They went with McTominay. They pressed. They stopped Brighton from doing their middle between two center back thing where they get everything going. And the first 20 minutes, United were great, and they had every right to be happy. They nearly scored a goal. Van Hecken was on his skates a few times when Rashford got on him. Rashford kept shooting. He doesn't really trust his teammates yet. Doesn't have a relationship with Højlund. And I think he still feels like he's got to score the goals. And then against the run of play, Brighton do their thing. The veteran, the superstar, the destroyer of worlds, Danny Welbeck, scores a goal.
Yeah.
The man who couldn't finish anything ever. But the real cool play on that was the dummy by Lallana is just incredible. Into the box, 1-0. And then in that moment, De Zerbi's brings all the guys onto the sideline. It's like, yo, we're changing everything. So everything's in the middle for United. And from that moment on, Brighton take over because they split the center backs wide and move Jed Steele into the center backs, and they're able to play around them. And from then on, United are out of this game, and they get blown away. They don't have the ball. They can't do anything. And Ten Hag hangs his hat on his 20 minutes where De Zerbi figured out what you were doing, and then you didn't have a counter to the counter. So after that, it was regular service, and they just got blown away. The Pedro goal was fantastic. The Pascal Gross goal sent freaking Lisandro Martinez flying away, and it just was embarrassing for United again. It wasn't even like this was Brighton's A team. They made 6 changes.
Well, Mike, I mean, at this point, is Ten Hag the man up for the job? I mean, you can't get rid of 22 players.
Well, no, but I always have a rule that if you're going in any sport, if you're going to fire the manager, coach, whoever, you have to have a good idea about who you want to replace him, right? So Ange isn't going to Manchester United, but no. As I look through the lineup that they put out against Brighton, Lindelof at center back, that's a problem. McTominay, it's a problem. Sergio Reguilon, who knows better than me? That's a problem. So I'm not.
Yeah, they got a lot of injuries
so much. That's what I was just getting at too. Like Amrabat is not even really with the team yet. Varane didn't play. Mason Mount, whatever. But this is not the top 11 coming out of it. Listen, I mean, it's coming out of a international break where you just kind of hold your breath and root against injuries for the most part. But no, I mean, as you look at their next game, they're playing Harry Kane's Bayern Munich on Wednesday, and that's not going to go well for them either. So, no, I don't know if Ten Hag is the proper man. I couldn't tell you who is. So, based on my rule alone, I would say not. I'm not necessarily ready to get rid of him, but he certainly needs better horses, I think.
Well,
and they could be coming, but we'll see.
But I mean, it's just tough because you got a manager that pretty much puts his players on blast. I mean, let's be honest with each other. I mean, he will just hang about anybody. I think he doesn't criticize himself enough, and he likes to play down things. I get it, but let's listen to Ten Hag and what he had to say.
Oh, he's got audio. Does he have audio?
Do you hear it?
No. We don't hear anything.
There it is.
Okay.
I think all the teams spending a lot of money.
That Brighton's team cost less.
Especially you.
Yeah, but I think also Brighton, they spend money, as everyone is doing. And when Man United is coming, it inflates the price. And that is also the truth.
Well, that's the reason.
Well, I mean, they're questioning him because
I changed my mind.
They're questioning him because he loses to a Brighton team that spent about 22 million. They brought a lot of money into the franchise, obviously.
Over 250 million without missing a beat.
So
I'm gonna straw man the other side for Ten Hag, and it's this. As I have said, I will look into the camera. Manchester United are the worst run club in the Premier League by far, especially if they're going by their contemporaries, the Super League invitees, if that's our aristocratic club. They're by far the worst run club of that group. By far. Yeah, right? And so Ten Hag's remit has been discipline. I run the club, and he's getting more shit to do than he wants to. He wants to be in a tracksuit and coach. He doesn't want to be the PR person. He doesn't want to be the scout. He doesn't want to do the director of footballing. And he has to, because United is such a mess that in order for that team to run, you have to try and do all the jobs that Sir Alex Ferguson did 30 years ago when it was literally just him and two guys. And now he can't coach the team. He's trying to, he doesn't take responsibility for blame because he's like, well, I have to be infallible. Because if I say I made a mistake, I'm going to lose more guys than I've already lost. So I might as well just pull a Trump and be like, no, we didn't lose. They cheated. It's perfect. That's how he has to run United because there's no buffer. He has to do everything.
Well, I mean, I don't think he can look at the stat sheets or the previous matches and say, well, I have a poor lineup and poor me that I have to go against everybody. It just doesn't make sense. You still have to, I think, balance things out. And the way he talks, I mean, every week Ten Hag has every question. He has a million excuses for everything that he does. And I don't want to go, to Guardiola per se, but he just a big contrast. He tells you exactly what's going on, and
we don't need excuses. We win every game.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, we'll see. Because we'll talk about City. They had a rough start in that match. They still won, so you got to give them that. But now, where do you go from United at this point? I mean, Mike. You talked about Lindo and I mean, do you bring Maguire back? Is that? I mean. I've seen it all over the place now. So is Maguire's. So now we're saying that he needs to come back to the roster, or I mean to the lineup.
No, I'm not signing up too much for that. But what I do think is you need to figure out A, your style of play, and B, cater to your opponent a little bit. I mean, and I don't know why I'm carrying so much water for Man United, but they're 5 results, right? Beat Wolves on opening day, lose to Spurs. You go down 2 goals in 4 minutes to Nottingham Forest. I can't explain that, but you did pull it back. And then you lose at Arsenal and home to Brighton. 3 of those 5 games, tough, and you won the other 2. So, yes, there are significant flaws, significant warning signs, but how far off the pace are they really? You're going to learn again on Wednesday with Bayern Munich. But after that, Burnley, Palace again, Galatasaray, Brentford, Sheffield United, until they play City just before Halloween. Laurent and I says all the time, they should not lose any of these games. They will, but that's the stretch.
I recall going through the lineup when Rangnick was coach, and we were like, yeah, they'll make top 4. They didn't make top 4.
No.
Well, they got a nice schedule.
Stretch, right? I mean, yeah, you've just gotten out of the teeth of a little bit of it. Well, like I said, you will this week.
Bayern Munich,
and then, you've got about 6 weeks where 5 weeks where you're every game you'll be grossly favored. You will be Manchester United to the team you're facing. So we'll see.
Yeah.
As far as the Maguire question, I think you've got the EFL, the League Cup against Crystal Palace. Throw him in there. What's the worst that could happen? You get knocked out of the Who Gives a Shit?
Well,
Okay,
let me tell you this: the worst. That's the same question that Southgate had. I'm gonna put Maguire in. What's the worst that can happen? And for Scotland, and then he ended up
I know, but in a low stakes game, right? I think you leave Lindelof in. Maybe not, but
I mean, do you think?
You know what? Does Burnley surprise them? Does Vincent Kompany beat United? That'd be fun.
Well, Burnley. I mean, but Burnley came by a win right now, so I mean,
yeah. I think the interesting thing is, yes, United are injury depleted. Like I said, there's no way that club. This is a club that goes in the same pantheon with Barcelona and Real Madrid and Liverpool and AC Milan and Inter and Juve. This is the aristocratic crown that Manchester United wears. The talent level, to your point, Chris, this is not a good team. They're not good.
But I do think that they should be playing better than what they are.
They actually need to play a Mourinho style right now because they're not good enough.
Right.
They actually should have Simeone. They should have a defensive mindset and hit teams on the break. If they try and play against Bayern, they're going to get annihilated.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that could happen. That could happen, obviously. But
it could happen either way.
They played good in the start of this match. I mean, I just don't think that they do anything good. I mean, I don't know. I don't.
You're right.
I don't know that defending or playing Simeone style or Guardiola style. Yeah. I just don't think that.
I think that what I always think about with United is they don't have any players that are two-way. They're not. They can't do two things in one. They can't walk and chew gum. They can defend when they have Wan-Bissaka in defense, but then they can't attack. And they can attack when they play Eriksen and Fernandes with McTominay and try and go forward. But then they get exposed. So they have this problem and now they've changed Onana. And listen, as much as Ten Hag wants to play out from the back, he's faced 10 shots and he's given up 5 goals.
Exactly. And
some of those would have been saved by David De Gea. I can say that safely. I think that the math in his head is when you play out from the back with your keeper, how many goals really is that giving to your team?
I think it's a luxury that
United scored 58 goals. They weren't ready to try and make that step. Your point is exactly valid. They, in fact, needed to keep De Gea because they weren't ready to try and play. They should have been like, you know what? We're going to fight higher up the field. But it's this half and half. I want to press. I want to possess the ball. I want to defend with the ball. I want to do these things. Yo, Paul Scholes ain't walking through that door. There's no midfielder to play that way. Frankie de Jong, I know you wanted him. You don't have him. What are you doing? To be a good coach, you've got to see the players you have and instill them with confidence to play. And we can transition to Postecoglou because Mike's here, because that was an amazing game. He's taken what he has and said, go play. And this is what I used to say to you, right, Mike? I'd be like, why is Mourinho and Conte trying to defend with a team that can't defend? Go attack. If you give up goals, you gave them up anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
And I will give Ange all the credit in the world, and he deserves it. But I think that there's 2 major pieces that he has already been the beneficiary of that nobody has been, and this includes Pochettino. That he got Mickey Van de Ven, a left-footed center back who is really silky on the ball, and he's like 14, and he's still unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like I was talking to you guys off air, James Maddison. James Maddison has been the literal Christian Eriksen replacement. And for those who forgot, Christian Eriksen left in January 2019. So it's been a while. And you had Kane basically, we used to talk about it all the time, having to play 2 positions simultaneously, doing it quite well, but neither here nor there. He should have never had to. You should have gotten Jack Grealish realistically in 2019, but neither here. It's fine. But now you've got these pieces where Reguilon is a perfect example. He's an attacking left back. Why isn't he a fit perfectly for an Ange Postecoglou system? Because it doesn't make sense to have him running off the ball inside, right? He's an attacking, flanking wingback or even fullback.
Whatever he is.
You have to have the right players. You bring in Destiny Udogie, who is just so good. but he's good at.
He was there
taking
already, wasn't he? There, he was a Conte guy that they didn't play.
He was bought from Udinese and loaned out. In truth, he was a Paratici guy. Conte didn't want him. But again, why didn't Conte want him? Because he's not a Conte player. He's an aggressive left fullback. So I'm loving watching him. Pap Sarr, another guy. We should really just bring Paratici back. I don't care who he lied to or who he cheated with or whatever. He did some great things. Kulusevski, unbelievable. Rodrigo Bentancur hasn't even played a minute yet this season. So Bissouma is a Cadillac all of a sudden, and that's because
I loved him.
I connotations aside, the shackles are off of him, okay, right? Like, so he's able to just play in the midfield and be managing the ball. You know what? I thought about it. I'm going to do it anyway. But no, it's he's got the intellectual freedom to be himself on the field. It almost begs the question: if Tanguy and Ndombele were ever to work out at Spurs, it would be under Postecoglou, but he just couldn't give a damn, unfortunately. But there's so much going forward that think about this. 6 months ago, right? You had Harry Kane, the best striker in Europe, just firing on all cylinders. And now you have a number 9 who cries when he's substituted, and the team is much better than they were. That will never make sense to me. But here we are, and I couldn't.
How did you experience the end of that game? Was it close to Ajax? What happened?
No, nothing will ever be quite close to Ajax, but I was in a car. My friend was driving, so I was thankfully able to enjoy my phone on my lap. If I were driving, I would have been in a ditch somewhere on the way to Gainesville, Florida. But yeah, it was quite an experience watching that, because it was your prototypical Spurs game to that point where they have all of the ball against a lesser competition. They strike you against the run of play, and you're just like, no, we're just not going to get one today. And even Brendan Johnson looked great off the bench. He had a goal called back for offside, and even at that point, I was like, it's coming back. No, it's just not today. To strike one back, but two, you could tell that Sheffield United, when the first goal went in, they're like, please just blow the whistle. We will not make it out alive if you don't blow the whistle in the next 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And
although I will say, I will say that the hammer goal was really good. Like, I have to give respect to the Sheffield United goal off the long throw, which is how they score goals.
Sure.
But the hammer goal on the volley off the inside of the post is something aesthetically pleasing about a nice goal. And Sheffield United have been playing hard, to give them respect. But Spurs have been putting up 20 to 25 shots a game, 10 on target. They deserve to win this game. Granted, the extra time rule has been fantastic for you.
Well, so it's been great for everybody, right? More sports.
Yeah.
Every American. I must have said this to you when the season started. But every American sport is like, how do we inject more media and commercials into our game and make the game as short and least enjoyable as possible? And England, which is inherently just the opposite of American sports in so many different ways, just goes, here's 20 minutes.
Let's just give more free sports.
Yeah, you're right. But no, so are you happy with Son up there as a 9 as opposed to, Richarlison? Obviously, he would be naturally the 1, but
I like Sonny as the 9 in a world without Harry Kane, because Sonny's greatest role was Robin, right? So he would always play off the left, and you would bring all this attention to Kane, and then he's running free. Right. What you have now is a wealth of options and a wealth of threats. So Sonny at the tip of the spear makes me the most confident that he'll get the ball in dangerous positions. If he's out wide, he has to create all of it himself. And he's a great finisher, but I don't know about his dribbling ability anymore. So he's got to be put in positions to score, I think.
I think, and to your point, I think people underestimate Son's ability to score. I think he's such a great, I think he's a great striker. I know that striker, it relates to
unbelievable.
Somebody.
He's a unbelievable finisher.
Yeah, but I think he can finish really well. Let's listen to Postecoglou, the king of the Coys.
Would love to.
Yeah, it's crucial, and I think you're right. I think the fans played their part today, and it was a real frustrating game in that, like I said, there was a lot of stoppages, a lot of dead time where sometimes we didn't deal with it well either, talking to the referee at unnecessary moments instead of getting on with the game. And it would have been easy for our supporters to get frustrated. But I do think that our supporters are seeing in this team, even when things, weren't going to script today and we're 1-0 down, they can see the team trying to play, the football that they want to see their team play. And I think that helps because they can resonate with that. That's what they want to see in their team. They want to see aggression when we have the ball, aggression when we don't have the ball. And I think they're bought into that because they can see that the players, that's what they're trying to do. And in this early phase, it's crucial because that hopefully fast tracks our development as a football club, because there's no doubt that the players got energy from the supporters today, no doubt about it.
Well, those were Postecoglou's words. What do you guys think? Is he the ultimate leader right now for the Spurs?
Well, sure, right? It's easy to galvanize a group. Laurent will remember that Nuno Espirito Santo won his first game with Tottenham as well. So
we made shirts.
They're the same. Yeah, that's right. Not to say that there's any correlation between the two, but it's really he hit the nail on the head there, right? All you have to do is listen to those comments. It's for Spurs fans, and especially in the last 4 or 5 years, you can keep your Pochettino, your Conte, and Mourinho. There's something about the way that the game is played, which is almost equal to, and in some cases more important than the result, because we don't have that many trophies to count. So the ethos has been restored to the club since, even in a greater sense than I think Pochettino has done it. And in a month and a half. All this after going through the Kane ridiculous saga. I don't know if you guys covered the Bayern Munich reporter who showed up to Thailand or wherever the hell they were with a Kane number 9 Bayern jersey. He's handled everything with just such class is the wrong word, just such professionalism and confidence in his own abilities to lead this group. So yeah, it's happy times in North London, but. Again, I said United had a hard schedule, and now they're coming into the easy parts. The next 2 games, going to the North London derby, going to the Emirates, and then home against
That's
Liverpool.
Going to be a tough one.
Yeah. So, the rubber meets the road now. Thankfully, we don't have any European games midweek to really push us on and really take away from the mission right now with those 2 big dates ahead. But yeah, we'll see. It's all eyes on North London Derby next Sunday. So we'll see.
Oh, that's going to be electrifying at the Arsenal Stadium. And of course with Liverpool, that's going to be another tough match, boy. Liverpool looking good right now. At least getting the wins, even though they didn't start good in their match.
They were awful.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to say is that they're getting kind of to your point of Manchester City. They're getting the results, and so that's what I was.
Yeah, I think the way to look at that Liverpool game was just in that game against Wolves at Molineux, you saw why we question Liverpool as title contenders. They can be as bad as that first half where nothing is working. They're defensively all over the place. Cunha jumped and took a cross in the belly. I don't know what he was doing. Your boy Neto has been great, but you have a shit Neto in Manar Salomon, Jewish Neto. He's on your team, Mike.
Yeah.
But then Liverpool on the other side of it, Slobozai looks fantastic. Salah's getting 3 assists a game. The goal by Robertson to put them ahead was fantastic. And just the run, the whole thing, without Trent Alexander-Arnold, which I think probably allows Robertson to play more. I think he's been sort of shunted off as he always has to be in defense in the 3 because they're playing Trent Alexander-Arnold more forward. But Robertson is a 10-assist fullback in and of himself, and being able to get that goal, especially as captain, showed where Liverpool is right now. They're in that early Klopp era where they're trying to figure things out, where they can play terrible and then have to go forward. In attack, they're the best team in the league. They're better than
when you say they did struggle, but to win 3-1
was bad.
3-1, and you win
but
against
they scored
3-1,
2 of those goals late.
Well, I understand that, but they still got the score. Soboslai is good.
For sure.
So Soboslai, they got good signings. Of course, the defense They struggle a little bit there. I think McAllister needs to put the Argentinian aside a little bit and always mouthing off instead of just putting his head down and play. But he is a World Cup winner.
He was not ready for that game.
And so,
yeah,
but
he shouldn't have played.
Yeah, but I mean, but
Klopp, but at least Klopp saw it and changed it, right? That's the great thing about Klopp.
Yeah.
He's willing to admit a mistake.
That's the difference.
Make the change. He has the players to make the change.
And that's the difference. That's the ultimate difference between a normal coach and an elite coach. I've been saying it forever. Top teams need to have big. And he also said that he was stunned by the way Liverpool play and the way they came out. Let's listen.
He said WTF, literally.
Let's listen to if we get. Oh, we have an ad. Let's see. Yeah, let's listen to Klopp.
Oh, I thought in the first half a couple of times. WTF. But
what a legend.
So we were not ready first half, obviously. But Wolves did really well. On top of that, Wolves played a super first half, we a really bad one, and second half we were really good and controlled the game and kept going and scored one and then not directly the second, so we needed a while. But we stayed calm. I liked that a lot. It was no rush. We didn't kick balls somewhere. We really tried to play around, break lines. So, and 3-1 is a result I didn't expect and after 20 minutes, and maybe not in half time, but during the second half, we deserved the result, and so that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, club but Wolves, they're a tough customer, man. They I know that scoring wise, they struggle scoring, but I mean, they're just tough. Some of these teams are just tough. I mean, Forest, the same thing, just tough. They go to Arsenal and they make Arsenal, just struggle with that win in the first match of the week, in the first week of the Premier League. So, but what are the expectations, Mike, for this Liverpool team? Can they actually ultimately win the Premier League? Can they beat City?
Yeah, I mean, you look into there's two things that affected for me. I'm looking at the last 2 to 3 months of last season. I think they were unbeaten, 12, 13 in a row. They ended scorching hot. And as you think about, well, okay, if it's not City, who else could it be? Going into the season, I thought it would be Liverpool's to lose, even though Arsenal did kind of, get more reinforcements. With Szoboszlai coming in, like you guys have mentioned, I thought that they were in a position, as much as anyone, their center backs, Van Dijk getting up there is obviously, for me, their Achilles heel at this point. But, I think that they've got as much of a shot as anyone realistically. Now, fast forward a month or so later, are they still they have to just paste a couple of teams to kind of give me that confidence back. There right. Used to be some early season games where they would take a Wolves and instead of going 1-0 down, they'd be up 3-0 30 minutes in and you'd be like, okay, well, is there another game on right now? So they haven't really done all that much yet. And I don't know why that matters as much as it does to me, but I guess that's kind of a factor.
Yeah. I mean, right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Laurent. Go ahead, Laurent.
Yeah, I think Mike put the nail on the head. It's just when I think about if their competition is City, right? City have won the league 3 years in a row, literally with 3 different center back pairings. And all those players are still on the team, except for Laporte, who they moved on. So whereas Liverpool have been like, it's Van Dijk and someone else. The idea that there isn't even someone who's supposed to be Van Dijk's replacement. There's nobody even close, right? So he's been in decline since the knee, even though they did have the great seasons afterwards. He really has not been able to be. He's still a great defender, but he was a back line in and of himself. He was intergalactic Van Dijk. Like no one got past him. Kind of like, I hate to say that, but Saliba's really good right now. Like Saliba's in that level right now. That kind of like you can't get past him. He knows what he's doing. Everything's fine. And Van Dijk isn't there. And that's the issue for Liverpool because now they can't carry Trent Alexander-Arnold anymore because the whole defense can't shift to that side and cover it for him. So now whenever someone attacks them, it's open, it's free. And I do think, though, that the midfield will improve. The question is will Szoboszlai and McAllister and Kubo, because I don't think they wanted Kubo. They got him because they didn't get Caicedo. do they have the legs to fill in those gaps? Because when Liverpool was at their best, they would suffocate you. They would just be on top of you. And I went through it. It was the worst. At home, against Liverpool, a night game, they were unstoppable. And they've replenished the front half of that, but they don't have the strength and power anymore. They can't control games. And so you can always score on them. I don't think they're quite there, but like Mike said, if it's not going to be Arsenal, it's going to be Liverpool. And frankly, I now believe it's not going to be anyone. Because if City, and we'll transition into them, if City are going to have 15 points early, no one's catching them. They're gone.
So let's have this debate right here. Who is looking right now, other than City, to win the Premier League so far? Who can take? I mean, right now, if you look at the table, obviously we just have 5 games in. We're just 5 games in. However, you got Liverpool, City, obviously, Tottenham, Mike. They're up. They're second, Mike. They're second. I'm just saying, man. I know it's 5 games.
He's broken inside.
No.
No. You can't.
They're up there. They're second right now, time in points with Arsenal and Liverpool, and then, of course, the great and invincible Brighton. But who do you guys think? I think I honestly, before you guys take it over, I don't see any other club aside from those 5 winning it. I really don't.
Well, no, I mean, if we go that way,
that's safe, right? Like, yeah. Let's see. For me, the question becomes how many games does City play? Like you said, Laurent, they're at 15. They're 5-0. They've got they got the best goal difference in the league. That matters because they will trip up when they get into, 5 competitions with the Club World Cup now, I think.
They already won one. They already got they already got the Super Cup.
Sure, but what I mean is like longer drawn out competitions, right? They lost a lot of depth this year. They lost Mahrez, they lost Gundogan, they lost players that won them matches when they didn't didn't deserve to win the match. The rare time, the greatest thing about City the last 5 years, they would win games. It's like, God damn it, they won that one again. Come on, really? Vincent Kompany from 25 yards? Are you out of your mind? They don't have. That's what scares me when they get into the meat of their 5-ish competitions. They're going to make a run in the FA Cup, so they're going to have those games. That's where I think they will be susceptible in the league because I think that they still, even though they won it last year, finally, the Champions League is the be-all, end-all for them. And I do think that late in the season, if they have to choose, they'll prioritize that, and there are teams that could stay close enough to them to pip them at the end. And I think Tottenham and Arsenal and Liverpool is probably the list.
Yeah, when we started the season, I really did think that Arsenal was the challenger. And I thought that because I thought that so many players for City had just gone through such an emotional trying to get there and getting to the mountain, right? So they have the hangover of the Champions League. The other thing is no one has ever won the division 4 times in a row. Why should it be City? There has to be a reason that no one in the 150-year history of English top flight football has ever won 4 in a row. So my thought was that they wouldn't do it. Now, I thought that if someone was going to do it, you'd have to get out in front the way Liverpool did when they won the league and almost went undefeated, frankly. They had over 90 points, that pushed them to the end. You'd have to get out in front the way Arsenal did last season with 50 points after 19 games, and City would have to find their identity. Now, I did not foresee City losing De Bruyne and being undefeated. I thought, some of these games, this West Ham game was a kind of game they might blow. They haven't finished big games yet. I don't see them if they're gonna go like not have a loss 10 games in. It's going to be very difficult to catch them because if any team knows how to put the gas, if anyone challenges them, City will just up the gear. When Liverpool would push them, they would just match them. When they knew they had to catch Arsenal, they just went up a gear. So the thing that you need to have for City to lose is you need injuries. As much as City have a great squad, it's not that big of a squad. Like, I think they're Bernardo, like they can take De Bruyne, but if they lose Silva, they don't have anyone like Silva. I mean,
or
Nunez
Alvarez.
would have
Alvarez
to step
has been
up.
their best player this year.
But they would just play Foden there. Like, they have a replacement sort of for Alvarez in a way.
Who?
Right? But Alvarez has been Foden, who doesn't play all the time. But I mean, like for like, they could mix and match. But there's not that many players. You'd have to hope for injuries, right? Like, I think there's a lot of depth, but there are certain players that do certain things that you're just like, there's nobody can do it. No, if they lost Rodri, they'd be doomed. They don't have anyone who can do what he does. I mean, zero.
So again, all right. So to go back to the point, I love going to the schedule, right? So if you go, right before the October international break, you go to RB Leipzig in the Champions League. It's a tough place to play. It's a tough game. Winnable, of course, for City. And then 4 days later, you go
City's favored in every game, period.
Yeah, I know. They're Manchester City. But 4 days later, you go to the Emirates. That is really the referendum on, are they catchable this year? Does Arsenal take a point off of them at home?
Well, that's going to be the key, right?
They've got Newcastle before that. Then some games later on in November. But like, that's going to be the question: is City can wobble in against proper competition. It's hey, listen, Tottenham has your number in the last 5 years, and that we are the El Duco champions.
Okay. I know you are, but you only when you're playing on the break. So this way, I got no problem with Angeball. We're gonna blow this team away.
Take the over, right? Both teams to score.
Take the over.
It's gonna be a tough team to play against.
I think the key thing is this: to win the Premier League, is two things have to happen. And I don't care what the order is or we can do by points or whatever. 1, 90. What team can get to 90, right? And if someone gets more than 90, fine, you tip their hat to them. 90 is the number. 2, you can't lose. You have more than 5 losses, you're fucked, right? It's really that, and then you can't have 10. You have to have under 10 draws. So 5 losses, 9 draws. That's the best you can do. That gets you probably to about 90. Think about it. Arsenal were on 50 at the break. They had 35 points in the second half. That's not bad. That's a 70-point season. That's not that bad, but they only end up with 85. No. So to get to 90, you have got to be winning, right? We've got to think that someone like Arsenal and someone like Liverpool can do it. I think for Liverpool, they need more breaks. They need some of these games where they give up goals. They need to outscore people because they're not a good enough defense. So they need to have some weird games where they win 4-2, 4-3, and the away form for Liverpool will be huge. If they can win away from home, then Liverpool have a better chance. And then for Arsenal, it's what does it look like down the stretch? Did they learn from the collapse down the stretch? Can they find more goals? Because I think the issue for them is they got almost 40 goals out of Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard. That's a lot. 40 from a non-striker. They need another 20 from up front.
We can transition to Arsenal. They had a really tough game. A really, really tough game. A lot of these teams did. Coming from an international break, I'm not a fan of blaming it on that, but people do. I don't know if you guys think the same. I think that if you train every single day,
if you lose, you blame. If you don't, it was nothing. They just it's narrative.
You train every single day. I don't think you lose how to play with each other by just going a couple of days to your country. But
flying sucks.
Yeah, flying first class in the private jet does suck. I'm sure. But what do you guys think? I
wasn't in La Paz this weekend.
Now, obviously, Everton must be one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now, and
they're awful.
They barely got a win. I know they have the possession, they have all the stats, so they can hang that on their wall. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Arsenal did not play good whatsoever.
It was a tough game. They wanted it to be tough. Everton are awful, and they made the game awful, but they are really, really bad. I was shocked at how bad they were. How many times one of their passes just went straight out of bounds? Onana, who I really liked a while ago, doesn't seem to know where to be or know how to pass the ball forward. Everton are really a lot of trouble. I do think Beto is okay, but they didn't really get the ball to him that often. They didn't seem to be able to even try for the first 40 minutes of the game. There was a few minutes there that Everton did try and string some balls together, but it was pretty gross. Arsenal, it would have been him to get a draw because I think ultimately they played to win, tried to win, and got the goal that they ultimately deserved in the end. But it was not pretty. Again, Brighton alum, Leandro Trossard, hell of a player, a great player to have to come off the bench. The thing that I paid attention to the most was how good Vieira was. They had a lot more flow without Havertz, who is basically a passenger. I thought that he strung some things together and ended up being the guy who led the assist, who led that attack that Trossard got the shot off of from. So I think they're better with Vieira. The less they can play Havertz, I think they'll be better off. I am concerned about Declan Rice. He's weird. He does not pass the ball forward at all, ever.
Well, we kind of
wonder.
I mean, I think I think he's better than Caicedo at doing that. I don't know if that says much.
Sure,
but
is he better than Thomas Partey? Is the question.
Well, I mean, I do see a lot of Declan Rice taking the ball to the opposite end.
He does. I mean, he's not afraid. He can run with it. He's
not much of a passer.
What you want from him is what he doesn't do is he does not take the ball on the half turn and spread it. He wants to come deep and go onto the ball and sort of run forward. So he's missing a little bit of a skill. Now, I might be spoiled because I watch Rodri do this all day long. He takes the ball in the half turn, spreads it out with two guys draped on him. He does it all day long like it's easy. It's not easy. And so maybe I'm just comparing Declan Rice to Rodri, but I think that's what Arteta thinks he's getting. It did take 2 years for Rodri to become Rodri, but Everton are going down. They're fucking awful.
They need to feed. They need to feed Ghana and the rest. They got to give them some sweet potato, some country feeding, some U.S. country food, because I mean the way he just shot that ball like just a while ago. I mean, just no willingness to do anything whatsoever. And it's unfortunate because Everton is a club with history. You know, they just got a new owner now. I don't know if that's going to change anything.
Those guys don't seem. This is one of those devil you know things. Like this ownership group, this 777 funding group out of Florida, this does not seem like a good idea.
Is Mike and his buddies bought Everton?
Every team they've touched, the people don't like it, so they had an 8% stake in Sevilla, tried to buy them. People didn't like it. They have a stake in Saint-Gilloise. In one of the teams in Belgium. They're not Standard Liège, excuse me. They're not happy with them. They bought Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin went down. Hertha fans are pissed off. So this seems like a bunch of hedge fund douchebags who think it's fun to buy soccer teams. They have not shown that they can make a team succeed. This is not Tony Bloom of Brighton buying a team and all of a sudden moving it forward. This is the type of team that they buy Everton and then after they finish the stadium, sell the stadium and then sell the team and let the team lose their stadium.
All right, so let's go with Chelsea. Chelsea, another team struggling right now in the Premier League.
Oh, God.
I mean, I thought they were going to fight. Bad. I thought they were going to fight for a top 4 spot, but obviously I was wrong. Spending over £1 billion on players, mostly young players. So obviously, you know, if you buy young players, it's just not going to get it done. You have to get. They could have really bought 3 players, key players, and be better off probably. But of course, they had to get rid of a lot to change what happened last year.
They did.
So a lot of people questioning Pochettino. Of course, you know that's the narrative when big teams don't do well. But I mean, I don't know. I want to hear from Mike because Mike had him at Spurs, and he did. I think he did a tremendous job to get to the promised land. But at the end of the day, it's about winning, and he didn't do it with Spurs. So, do you think he can fix Chelsea's problem? Is he the man or is he not?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a question of what does Chelsea want to do, right? Like, I mean, you know, you got Christopher Nkunku on the shelf, with a really unfortunate knee injury, and you know, Nicholas Jackson's okay, but for all the strikers, all the big high-priced strikers that they've bought over the years, does that include Lukaku like 3 times? I'm not sure, but it just for me, Nkunku would have been the best of the lot, and so he was a tough loss right before the season started. You know, Pochettino he's a polarizing figure because he went to PSG and didn't really win anything other than the Farmers League. He at the same time, he gets a lot out of players. We talk about Heung-min Son. I'd give all the credit in the world to Pochettino for his success, in addition to figuring out, like I was saying earlier, how to play against Kane, or play behind Kane. But if you look at how Raheem Sterling has kind of had a resurgence under him, I haven't watched all of the Chelsea games this year, but he was the main player to me that stood out. And for all the talk about how they've spent money hand over fist, 100 million on Caicedo and all this stuff. You mentioned Havertz a minute ago. They got 70 million for Havertz and more for Mason Mount. Right. So not even bringing in financial fair play, they're like a net even. So I don't really consider it like money necessarily lost for anybody that they've brought in yet. But I wonder what can Reece James stay on the field, because he's one of the best right backs in football. Without him, your club changes, right? Pochettino's system is so reliant on, forward-facing fullbacks who have the ability to cross the ball in, like Kyle Walker and Danny Rose many years ago. I think that in order to get the right gel there, you've got to have the right horses in front of you. So I don't know if he's got that yet, but I think the group he's got in midfield, Enzo Fernandez has been great. Caicedo still needs a little bit of work, but I think that it will. As much as I don't want it to, because I feel like I'm watching my dad and his new family. I want him to go poorly for him, but I think that they will be in with a puncher's chance for the top four at the end of the season. Do I think they'll get there? No, only because of the competition that they're facing. But I think that they'll be in a Europa League spot pretty comfortably at the end of the season, I think, and that will be considered a failure for Chelsea. And all we need to do is remind them of last season.
You don't think? Okay, let's open the debate.
Here's the thing with Chelsea that I see. This is ready for the nerd hole. They have won every single one of their games based on expected goals. So they are creating enough opportunities and getting in the right spots and taking the shots needed to win games. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do it. They are really bad in front of goals. The reason why I really been pushing on Nico Jackson, I really like his runs. I really like where he gets. I really like everything about him. But he may be Danny Welbeck in disguise, in that he does everything he's supposed to do and then does it wrong. So they're creating things, and I think it's really hard for the pundit class, to sort of say a team is playing well and should be winning. Are they creating enough, I think, is a question. No, based on the strikers they have. But if any of those chances get taken, then they're flying, right? Like if Raheem Sterling's goal goes in, if Nico Jackson doesn't fall over when he takes shots, they're fine. But I think the key thing for them will be they just need to find a way to put the ball in the net. Like Raheem Sterling drives me crazy, but he's the one player who's mature enough and understands what it means to keep moving forward and trying to score goals. I don't know that they've actually bought anyone who would get into any of the top 6 teams that they have. I don't think there is one, honestly. Caicedo, that's it.
Well, but that also would be because of expectancy more than what he's proven on the pitch. I mean, I know he did it on Brighton, but Brighton is not. I mean, he needs to prove it in the big. You
may have to. You can keep shitting on Brighton, but when they win the league, you're going to really be concerned.
Okay, so now are they going to win the? They want to win the league. That's
no. They're going to win. They're going to win the Europa League. That would be the biggest story in European football since Porto. And then De Zerbi will pick the team he wants to go to after winning the Europa League.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem because that's also
As we're watching the highlights, I actually did not see that Raheem Sterling hit a postage stamp.
That was gone in. Chelsea got 6 shots on target now. On target.
Right. There's a woulda, coulda, shoulda element for sure here. But I do think, you mentioned Caicedo. I don't think he's the best player that they signed. And it's a cop-out because it's an injury. But Nkunku I think he's going to be the difference maker when he comes back, assuming the knee is healthy. But because
Nkunku was on track for like a 20-20 season. Now, we do have to dampen players out of the Bundesliga. what's his name? Werner scored 35 goals for RB Leipzig and came to Chelsea, and when he got near goal, threw up because he was afraid to shoot. Right? Havertz was a 15-15 guy, and he came in front of goal and threw up because he was afraid to shoot. Now, Nkunku, I think, is a little bit better. I think he's a higher level, and we know Haaland came from the Bundesliga and was not afraid to shoot. And in fact, we didn't really even talk about his amazing celebration of rolling around on the ground after he missed, and he took 9 shots. Like, the narrative that West Ham hung into their game is a complete joke. City took 29 shots, 15 on target. They completely battered West Ham. I don't want to hear anything about West Ham. They got destroyed.
Okay.
But I love James Ward-Prowse, as Mike knows very well.
Yep, he's a very good player. Very good player. You said that he is the best passer or crosser. What did you say? Crosser?
He's the greatest Premier League crosser of all time, ahead of David Beckham.
That's one hell of a take. I'm not sure I would say that.
Why is it wrong? It's not wrong. It's completely accurate.
Because Beckham wasn't just good; he was pretty damn good. You know, people gave him problems because he's pretty and he looks worse with makeup on.
Let's switch their careers. If James Ward-Prowse at 19 years old is at Manchester United with Sir Alex Ferguson and David Beckham plays for Southampton, do they have different careers? No. But it's exactly the same.
You can do that with the Harry Kane argument.
You can do that with any player.
I used to do that twice a week for 6 months a year.
Listen, if you put me playing with Manchester United, I'm going to have a better shot than anybody else to get noticed. You know, it's just the way it is.
I think David Beckham weirdly is underrated. He is actually not that much better than James Ward-Prowse, to be honest.
Oh my!
James Ward-Prowse is that good. Why? Why is he much better?
Well,
everything's.
We'll see.
Look at the all-time records. The numbers are there. Like
we'll see at the end.
It's not. I'm not making it up.
He is numbers. He is a midfielder. What are you going by? The amount of passes, the amount of goals? Can't go by that.
They have it. They have it. It's
Listen,
the numbers are crosses that have been led to goals. Like on set pieces, they have the numbers of how many goals he scored and his rate. And then set piece goals, like from dead ball goals. James Ward-Prowse, I think, is getting close to the top Premier League player of all time. And then all you have to do is watch James Ward-Prowse when he's on a corner.
I think he's a great
petrified.
Player. I think he's a good player, but you can't compare him to one of the best players that come out of England. That is David Beckham.
No, he just happens to be more famous.
No. Come on, man.
He's got better PR. You know what it is? James Ward-Prowse needs to marry a Kardashian, and then everything would just change for him, and his hair could get.
Beckham is a self-made man, and give him credit. Let's do a little bit of news roundup here.
You want to go to Europe?
No, that just came up. But actually, something came up today, and it was about Barcelona lining up to sign Isak as a replacement for Lewandowski. We can dip into Newcastle's winning. Won the game, but they just weren't convincing at all.
The game was not good.
But if they take Isak out, that's one hell of a.
Well, he didn't play. He
didn't play, but usually he is a starter. I mean. He's usually somebody that now. So, what do you guys think on this? We love him. What do you guys think on this? You think it could be? I mean, they're struggling with Robert Lewandowski. They're saying he's not scoring. Of course, when it comes to Barcelona, Real Madrid, all these big clubs, when something is not happening as the media wants it, then they start throwing out that they suck. But at the end of the day, it is a feasible situation. I don't know that Isak has proven himself to take that big step in his career. I don't know. I think you guys help me with the numbers. I don't know where he finished in scoring last season. I think this season only has
10 goals maybe.
So
10.
Is he ready for that big move? Do you guys think it can happen?
No. I don't think he's there yet. He's really I think one of the things that gets underrated is these top players that simply don't miss games, right? Robert Lewandowski has played over 30 games for 13 years in a row, all right? So whatever he's doing, that guy is fit. He's ready to go, right?
Yeah.
You suit up, I can play, coach. I'm ready. Now, he's 34. Father Time, what is he, Mike? Undefeated.
Of course, that's a fact.
Roll out your cliches. But, I mean, Isak
I say that all the time.
Isak is an option, right? Like, I think when you want to replace one of these super all-time great strikers, the goal is to get as many throws of the dice as possible. You're not going to find it with one. It's not going to just be Leao. It's not going to be just Osimhen. It's not going to be just Isak. It's got to be Isak and two other young guys. And then one of them fights and figures it out and becomes at 23, becomes there. Like the thing is with Lewandowski, by the time he was 22 years old, he had a 22-goal season for Dortmund and won the league on a team that should have never won the title. Isak's already that age and isn't delivering like that yet. So Isak is not particularly, I think he might be 22. He's not particularly young. He's already 24. So he's not in that range yet. He's had a 17-goal season with Real Sociedad, 10 last year, but he's not at that level of consistency. And he misses games.
Yeah, and for me, I think, there's two things here. Like you hit on it a little bit there, Laurent, but I think, first of all, goals and assists leader in La Liga right now with 6. Bellingham has 5 goals and 1 assist. He's got 3 and 3. So he's 35 years old, but he's really fallen off the pace, right? I think, Chris, like you said, the media is just kind of making a meal out of this here. But yeah, I just I don't think you can sell Alexander Isak to Barcelona fans to wear the number 9 shirt after Robert Lewandowski has done so. So, and this is not, I'm a huge Isak fan. If you were to tell me that, take Brendan Johnson out of the equation and Spurs would have gone after him as a Kane replacement, I'd have been on board with that. I would have liked that a lot, right? that seems like a really good fit, and or not, I suppose. So to suggest that Spurs, even though they're 5 games in and having great stretch, are Barcelona asked to say that he would fit in this team, but not quite that team. It just doesn't ring like that feels like a Barcelona signing, no matter how much debt they're in. So yeah, I think that there's another level. Osimhen is a guy who comes to mind. But yeah, Laurent, you're right. I think that you probably get a star and a couple of hungry kids who are going to push that star so that you don't just walk in like you got your every meal paid for already.
And as we know,
I think that
go ahead.
The fascinating thing with Barca is, and this is ready for a big controversial statement. They had the superstar team with Cruyff, right? That's 91, 92. That's Stoichkov. That's when they win their first Champions League, whatever. Then they have the Ronaldinho era where they win a Champions League in 2006. And then really it's the 14 years of Messi. Aside from that, they really never won anything. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but it's really 2 eras, right? It's all Cruyff.
Right, compared to their contemporaries.
Disciples of Cruyff, and then it's Messi. So how do you find that level again? It's clear the economic mismanagement will catch up with them. There's no way they can sustain what they're doing, where they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now they have their cap is now at 250 million, yet they keep finding money. The next thing they'll have to do is sell Gavi or sell one of these players to try and find a way forward, or just wait for the economy to turn around, or wait out the Super League or whatever. So I could see Barca not really ever being at that place. I think what La Liga wants to see happen, and we know this in their heads, is they want Mbappe at Real, Haaland at Barca. Do you know what I mean? They want to get back to that. They want to get back to Messi, Ronaldo. Now, can that happen again? No, probably not. But that's their goal ultimately, is to get to that place. And I don't know that option is out there for those 2 teams. La Liga basically kneecapped itself by giving itself a salary cap when no one else in the world has one. So where you did have Real and Barca sort of trying to spend money with the Premier League for a long time, and you always had Juve trying to spend money with the Premier League has just crushed the rest of Europe to the point that they can't really compete for the superstars. So it's going to be, they have to create their own, and they're trying.
I think Real Madrid and Barcelona can compete. I think if you really look at, maybe not with money, but what Barcelona has done to get Cancelo, to get Joao Felix. I understand that there could be controversy in opinions when it comes
those
to those
guys
players.
are Premier League rejects.
But I understand that, but not everybody. It's just they might not be. It might not be their club where they played. It just might not be. But I mean, they can get players to come to those clubs just with their brand.
Sure.
Kind of the same thing with Manchester United.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bellingham. I mean, this is one of those big things, right? Like 15 years ago, Bellingham is in the middle of the Manchester United midfield, and Sir Alex Ferguson goes to Dortmund and brings him with him, right? Like culturally, there's a big hole in the Premier League that Man United is like this hulking, mistake-prone shitbox of mistakes, right? And thank God for my team holding up the Premier League, because if it wasn't for City, it would be a mess.
No, that's absolutely true. If it wasn't for City, the bar would have been lowered, and the Messi and Ronaldo era would have drawn on for 1,000 years, essentially, right? It would have just been the next man up. The Farmers League in France might have actually had a puncher's chance in the European game.
In that whole term, I mean, we can agree it was City. And also, you have to put Chelsea in there. Winning 2 Champions Leagues in the past 10 years brings the attention back to the Premier League. But
here's the thing, though, with Chelsea that I think, and we were on the air together, Mike, when Chelsea went down. We talked about Marina Granovskaya. We gave a whole episode about the most powerful woman in sports that no one talks about. Right. And in fact, if I were opening a club, I would hire her because she's incredible. Marina Granovskaya, right-hand man to Abramovich. I think what people don't really realize about Chelsea is that team essentially died and has been reborn without it dying. They essentially have gone like bankrupt, and someone bought them at a very expensive price, but it's not the same club. It's something completely different, which is why we're having such a hard time with this paradigm. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Abramovich's Chelsea, everyone was fired. Everyone was got rid of. The marketing guy went to jail, like Marina Granovskaya, Peter Cech, everything. They used to have a great freaking academy. All that's gone. All these players from Chelsea, it's gone. And so we're trying to figure out what's happening with them. And they spent $1.5 billion to try and get back to where they were. Not even ahead again. They're just where they were.
And with that, we are done. When we play the music, when Laurent starts going for more than 3 minutes, the music automatic comes on. That is it for this episode.
And I'd like to thank my wife and my baby.
Exactly.
I love you all, Mom and Dad. Thank you.
Shut up and get your damn golden trophy and go sit down. Or don't slap people's wives. Anyways, that is it for this episode of Football Tonight with Laurent Courtines. Mike Salerno. Mike, are you Italian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pipiri papiri. Pipiri papiri. Is that what your last name is, Salerno?
Yeah.
That's what immigrants did, isn't it? When they came here, they just kind of their last name. They picked where they're from, their city. That's incredible. We need to get it. We need
my last name. My last name is Courtines. It's a long version of city.
Okay. Anyways, we'll see you guys next time.